So the main first question we have to deal with is what is AAC? So AAC stands for Alternative and Augmentative Communication. And the National Survey Describing and Quantifying Students with Communication Needs gives a very good definition. It says that augmentative and alternative communication, or AAC, can potentially aid the language and literacy skills of a student with a communication need. So basically, it's an umbrella term or a category. It's not just one definition or one device. So within that category, we have alternative communication, which is used instead of verbally speaking. So sometimes this could be used in the form of sign language. It could be communication boards, PECs. It could be text-to-speech devices or tablets with text-to-speech apps on them. So the user could hit a button and it would say book or food, or it would digitize the words for them. However, as Sennett and Bowker say in their Autism AAC and Prologue Go to Go article, a tabletop digital device is not practical all the time, which is very true. So sometimes it's not always just going to be an iPad in front of the students. There's going to be augmentative communication as well. And augmentative communication adds to our typical communication, and so it can't be used in isolation. So it's something we use in everyday life, such as our hand gestures, or handwriting is another form of that. The other two main differences that differentiate between are aided and unaided communication. So the American Speech Language Hearing Association says that aided communication requires some form of external support. So these could be communication boards with graphic symbols, computers, handheld devices, or tablets that synthetically produce speech when you press on an icon or symbol. So it's not just the individual, they're using something else. But then unaided communication is defined on page 51 of the article written by Sigafus, O'Reilly, Lancioni, and Sutherland. And they say that unaided AAC devices do not require any external materials or equipment. So these would be the hand gestures and the manual signs that we use in everyday life. So talking with our hands, sometimes people will use hand gestures to augment what they're talking about. So the next piece is who are the stakeholders in AAC decisions. So Merriam-Webster defines a stakeholder as a person with interest or concern in something. So in decisions that deal with AAC, these members and stakeholders are often paralleled kind of with the case conference committee because they are the ones who make the decision. So the Indiana Department of Education, they say the case conference committee is a group comprised of school personnel and the student's parents that is responsible for determining the student's eligibility. And so this often is comprised of the parents or the family, the general education teacher, a special education teacher, an administrator, a public agency rep who is commonly the principal, and then anyone who works with that student at the school and is involved in those decisions. So those people come together to make the decision about the AAC device that is going to be used. And it's very, very important that the case conference committee is talking about this because if the need for AAC is not written in the IEP, then the school won't provide funding for it. So the IEP is really where it needs to go into in order for a student to get the AAC device that they need. Symbolic language and symbolic communication are two things that can be often confused with each other because there are very similar aspects within them, but then there are also some key differences in them. So Sasuski and Bosch really go into this, into their communication without language. So symbolic language is defined as a program of language that uses symbols for communication. So this would be something like American Sign Language, where there is a whole language behind it. It's just not verbally spoken. But the difference between that and symbolic communication goes into, they use the example that apes are able to communicate with each other and understand the needs and everything else without having a language. So there's not a language that they are communicating with each other with hand gestures or with words. They are simply communicating with each other. So that would be symbolic communication, while American Sign Language is like, it is a language, so it's a form of symbolic communication that is also a symbolic language. So the synthesized speech output in Children, a Scoping View journal article does a really good job of differentiating between digitized and synthesized speech. So they say that digitized speech is it refers to a recorded human voice stored as sampled segments of sound waves. So essentially, on the app or on the device, you would record you saying apple, please, water, whatever you need that icon to say. And so you would use human voices for that. But synthesized speech, it says that it's computer generated according to a set of rules and an algorithm. So it's basically created from within the computer, and it's not a human voice, it's more of that Siri voice that you hear on an iPhone. The USS AAC, also known as the Voice of AAC, does a really good job of differentiating between high-tech and low-tech AAC. So low-tech they describe as paper-based or rapid access communication. So these are forms of AAC that do not require an electronic source or batteries to function. It could be like PECs or simple aids created by placing words or letters and icons, making your own communication boards. Yes, no cards, little things like that are all forms of low-tech AAC. High-tech AAC they describe as electronic devices that permit storage and retrieval of messages. So this is Prologue to Go and LAMP and all of the tablets and the apps that have synthesized or digitized speech output within it. And so these do require batteries or an electronic source to function. They're also called speech generating devices. These can get very, very expensive depending on which one your child shows a need for. So there are things like patents, which will give you 6-week trials of an AAC device and see if it's going to work for your child. And that way it's not, you're not purchasing it blindly and hoping for the best. And there's also, again, super important that you put it in a student's IEP that they need that device and they have that need for communication assistance, because otherwise the school won't provide funding for it. So in certain circumstances, school will provide a certain amount or all of the funding necessary for it. And then depending on the student, they'll have like certain grants or scholarships available to different types of students to receive the type of AAC that they need.
According to the promise of assistive technology to enhance activity and work participation, 1.3% of Americans, that is around 4 million individuals, cannot rely on natural speech to meet their communication needs on a daily basis. The authors, Flaubert, Spicer, and Jett, continue by saying that there are many Americans who have other disabilities, not specifically communication disabilities, that still negatively impact their ability to communicate. The University of Nebraska's website says that there are 2 million Americans who have severe communication disabilities. That is a little more than 0.6% of the population. Of that population, there are many who are still children and students in our public schools. About 3 to 5% of the students who qualify for special education services are considered to have severe communication needs. The University of Nebraska's website also says that of the people who use AAC devices, 50% use low-tech devices, and a little less than a quarter choose to use AAC devices only in formal settings. According to the authors of Assessment with Children Who Need Augmentative and Alternative Communication, AAC, Clinical Decisions of AAC Specialists, the prevalence of individuals who could benefit from the use of AAC devices has increased in the U.S. in recent years. This could have implications in our careers as future educators if the number keeps rising. More students will be using AAC devices in general education and special education settings, depending on their least restrictive environment specifications. According to the authors of our textbook, Dell, Newton, and Petroff, low-tech devices are communication devices that are non-electronic and simple. This definition is found on page 173. In some cases, these devices can be used to help the students to learn how to use mid or high-tech communication devices, or they can be used as support for mid or high-tech communication devices. Low-tech AAC devices can be things like communication boards with symbols that can be used to communicate students' basic wants and needs. A student may use individual symbols to communicate simple needs and wants. These images can include things like a drinking glass to signify that the student is thirsty, or an apple could mean that they want a snack. These communication boards can be relatively low in cost and can be created specifically with the child's needs in mind. They would require things like paper, a printer, a laminator, and Velcro, which are generally things that teachers have on hand in their classroom. Students will need to be taught the meaning of the symbols in their communication board. This can be part of their special education program through their IEP goals. Students who have speech or language impairments, traumatic brain injuries, or autism spectrum disorder may benefit from the use of a communication board, and student frustration can be reduced by giving students this simple form of expression. Additionally, students who are nonverbal can take a more active role in socializing and in their learning, as depending on the symbols on the communication board, they may be able to respond to teachers' prompts or ask questions in class. A no-tech option for young children, especially those who have speech impairments or autism spectrum disorder, can include ASL, American Sign Language, or other gestures. The child would be required to learn ASL, and all the people who interact with the child would need to know the meaning of the signs and gestures that the child uses. ASL tutors, according to my research of multiple different tutor sites, ASL tutors can cost $10 to $50 per half hour. This number is based on the highs and lows that I saw. The school may have a deaf and hard of hearing teacher that might be willing to assist in teaching basic signs to the child and their teacher. Otherwise, parents can use online resources to teach their child certain important ASL signs like more, food, and water. Some of the disabilities that may benefit from using ASL as an AAC device include autism spectrum disorder, especially if the student is completely nonverbal. Students who have multiple disabilities, such as a speech and language impairment coupled with autism spectrum disorder, or a variation of multiple disabilities affecting communication, and of course students who are deaf and hard of hearing. Much of the information about the no-tech AAC, sign language, or ASL has been retrieved from speech-generating devices versus manual signing for children with developmental disabilities, a research paper published in the journal Research in Developmental Disabilities, a multidisciplinary journal. According to Dell, Newton, and Petroff on page 173 as well, high-tech AAC devices are specialized computers or electronic devices that store and retrieve messages. These devices are sometimes specifically designed to meet the communication needs of an individual with developmental disabilities relating to communication, or they are other devices, such as iPads or smartphones, that have been adapted to meet the student's communication needs. According to the USSAAC website, examples of high-tech devices would include speech-generating devices, voice output communication aids, communication generators, speech-to-text software, or AAC apps on iPads or smartphones. Apps like Jab Talk, Visual Reading, Special Education, Simbo Talk, AAC Talker, and others can all be used as communication aids. These apps are all free and can be used on both tablets and smartphones. There are several different AAC devices available on the Talk to Me website. One is iSpeak. This device can be used for communication by people who have disabilities affecting their mobility. Specifically, it is a speech-generating device that can be controlled by one or both of the individual's eyes. iSpeak is designed to meet the needs of individuals who have cerebral palsy, ALS, or other such conditions that relate to orthopedic impairments. This device can be mounted on a wheelchair with a custom mount so that the individual can use iSpeak anywhere they need it. A student could use it at school, an adult could use it at work, and it can be used in regular social situations. Talk to Me
offers a trial period in which the individual can take the communication device home and see if it's a good fit for their needs. Use of the iSpeak device will require some training. Caregivers and teachers need to understand the function of iSpeak so that they can provide assistance to the child if needed. iSpeak offers free consultation through their website to help answer any questions relating to the communication device, and they also design a training plan including assignments for all necessary individuals to complete. iSpeak could be beneficial for students who have orthopedic impairments. They would have the ability to communicate not only with their teachers but also with their peers. Social interactions have a direct effect on student performance, and improvement in social relationships with peers can also cause improvement in overall school success. Verbal prompts would be the most effective in teaching a student how to use iSpeak. The iSpeak camera tracks the individual's eye movements and uses them to control the speech generating device that it's attached to. It would be difficult to use different kinds of prompts, such as visual prompts, when the student needs to focus on the AAC device with their eyes. The iSpeak camera is $7,900, and the custom mount for wheelchairs is $180. Additionally, the individual will need to buy a tablet or have a tablet with the iSpeak software. The tablets on the Talk to Me website cost anywhere from $6,995 to $7,900. Talk to Me does offer help with funding the purchase of one of their AAC devices through Medicaid, Medicare, or through a private insurance provider. iSpeak was specifically designed to meet the needs of people who have severe orthopedic impairments that affect their movements and would make it difficult for them to navigate a speech-generating device with their hands or their feet. Therefore, they can use one or both eyes. Another high-tech option for AAC is Boardmaker with Speaking Dynamically Pro version 6. This is software that can be put on a computer. Their software is only compatible with Windows 7, 8, and 10. I found all of this information on their developer's website, goboardmaker.com. The Boardmaker with Speaking Dynamically Pro is designed to make a computer a speech-generating device and a learning device for students who have communication needs. It combines the features of Boardmaker with speech output. Not only can it be used to increase student communication, but it can also be used to create and print educational materials. Some of the features of Boardmaker with Speaking Dynamically include adjustable display and symbol sizes for students who might have low vision. Also, words can be highlighted while they are read for struggling students or for students who have a specific learning disability relating to reading. Word prediction is used to make new boards and to help students communicate, so this can be helpful if a student has difficulty generating speech. Pew. Also, Boardmaker with Speaking Dynamically Pro has the ability to play sound files and movies through their program. The cost of Boardmaker with Speaking Dynamically is $749, plus the cost of whatever computer the student is using, unless this computer is included in the classroom, or unless the teacher already has a computer in their classroom that is Windows 7, 8, or 10. I feel that while Boardmaker is a good program for students to use in a classroom, it is not conducive for everyday use. Students could learn to use the symbols and other communication aids to produce a synthesized voice through which they can communicate responses to their teacher's questions or ask questions of their own. But because Boardmaker is only available on Windows 7, 8, or 10, it would be more difficult to mount the computer to a wheelchair or to have a portable AAC device with Boardmaker with Speaking Dynamically installed. I believe that Boardmaker would be most helpful for a student who has a specific learning disability. They can represent their own thoughts through symbols rather than words, and if they needed to type out a passage, the word prediction feature can provide them with some assistance in constructing their sentence or paragraph. Again, I retrieved all of this information from goboardmaker.com. According to Affordability and AAC by Jay Ortiz, high-tech AAC devices can cost hundreds to thousands of dollars. There are ways to obtain funding for AAC, and it all depends on which state one lives in, but a common source of funding is through the family's insurance or some other type of federal program. Since AAC does have cost issues, there are resources families can use. According to Stabenfeld, in Indiana, there is Patins, Patins, lending library that will send AAC devices to a school at no cost. This particular organization allows the school to use a certain product for a 6-week trial so that they are able to work with the device and determine if the device is going to be helpful for the student, and they can decide if they would like to purchase the device or not. There are several different types of AAC software and apps that can be downloaded onto computers, tablets, and smartphones for students to use in communicating their needs and wants in daily life. They can also be used for expressive communication and other such socialization needs. One of these apps is called Yundi AAC. It is a free app that can be downloaded through the Google Play Store, and it is accessible for both tablets and phones. Yundi is an augmentative and alternative communication tool for children who have difficulty in speech, and can also be used as a teaching tool for parents and teachers to teach children cognitive skills. Children can press an icon on the app, and the app will speak out a short sentence or phrase that expresses a need, request, emotion, or an answer. There are 400 icons built into Yundi. These icons are available to students when they start using the app, and parents and teachers can easily add to these resources and customize the app to cater to the specific needs of their child. Students who have communication disorders can use this device to express their needs, to ask questions, and to answer questions. These can be useful in a school setting, not only for socialization, but to address students' academic needs as well. This information was retrieved from the developer's website, xiaoyudi.org, xiaoyudi.org, and from the Google Play Store. Another free AAC app is called Cough Drop AAC. Cough Drop is a simple modern AAC. Cough Drop is a simple modern AAC tool that empowers individuals and empowers the people around them. It is a full-featured communication app built for individuals who have autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, Angelman syndrome, Rett syndrome, or other complex communication needs. Cough Drop is flexible and can be configured to meet the needs of different students relating to communication or comprehension. This app includes starter boards for different levels of communication, but they can also be customized using images taken by the user's phone or images from Google with user-recorded audio and speech synthesis or any other related features. Cough Drop AAC is free, and this information was retrieved from the Google Play Store and the developer's website, mycoughdrop.com. The last software is called Speak for Yourself. Information for this software was retrieved from the developer website, speakforyourself.org, and the Apple website. This app requires iOS 9.3 or later and is only compatible with an iPhone, an iPad, or an iPod Touch. The app includes room for up to 40 different users, which can be helpful for speech and language pathologists or trying AAC with a number of different patients. Speak for Yourself can be helpful in teaching students how to use AAC devices. They can begin with only one symbol with one meaning and then move on to the library of symbols that has over 11,000 symbols embedded in the app. Additionally, a manual whisper mode was added in the newest update that allows users to create a whole sentence prior to the device speaking. Speak for Yourself costs $299.99 through the Apple Store and can be used by many different people, children and adults. It can be used in a classroom or to meet socialization needs, especially with students who have autism spectrum disorder.
Users can use their AAC device's synthetic speech to express themselves. By applying gender, tone, and nationality to their desired voice, choosing the voice may seem like a fun task, but for many, the voice that they choose will become their identity. The voice that they choose can allow the individual to come out of their shell and express their personality through the voice that is generated. Since the individual is not able to speak, they can't sing. However, that won't stop their artistic ability. This new voice that the individual has chosen can be used for sound-based art. Sound-based art is when a sound is used as the art. In some cases, this can be a heartbeat, a trash bag, or any other material that can generate a sound. This creates an opening for individuals who can't speak by being able to use their AAC device to use their synthetic voice and create a sound. It can also play an important role in education and the curriculum that is taught. For instance, AAC can be implemented in reading, writing, math, and social situations. In reading, AAC device supports can aid the user in learning to read, their fluency in reading, and their overall participation in independent reading. A teacher can implement all of the above by participating in shared reading. In shared reading, social interaction is maximized and is based on the specific child and their leads. The teacher does the reading, but they are giving the student leads and models good reading behaviors, such as fluency and participation. This is an early skill that teaches students to read through the interaction and their basic understanding of pictures and the words spoken by the teacher. For a student who is nonverbal, they may have a communication board in which they can participate through that particular device, but by engaging in the shared reading, they're exposed to particular modeled behavior. In writing, one means of support that AAC accomplishes is giving an adaptive way for those with physical disabilities a means to write. For instance, those who have a physical disability where it is difficult to hold a pencil can benefit from using a device that takes away that barrier. Where it would be difficult for them to write or learn writing concepts, by using an app they can easily learn writing properties. In math, teachers can use a variety of different math apps and tools in order to teach their students. Math apps are good ways to teach math concepts in a fun and interactive way. As mentioned previously, students learn in different ways, so incorporating blended learning into the classroom will benefit all of the students. Teachers should always try to create the best learning environment for their students and encompass a diverse group of teaching methods for different learning styles. In social situations, teachers can use the AAC devices to prepare students for certain social situations. Having students practice certain scenarios would benefit the student in understanding what to do in certain situations. For instance, the teacher can present the student with a menu for a restaurant and set up the scenario that they need to place their order. The teacher can also teach the students strategies to increase interaction with others. The student can address the teacher, their peers, other faculty members, their family, and the community. Luckily, there are different ways that students with disabilities can access their communication devices. For instance, one can have a communication board, or one may use an iPad or an iPhone to communicate. Some may prefer the less attention that an iPad gains rather than a larger and less common means. Different technological devices, those with disabilities have the right to privacy through the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996, otherwise known as HIPAA. For those with disabilities who are assigned an AAC device that is higher tech, the device can save and store data. With HIPAA in place, the information that is gathered and transmitted becomes private. Also, HIPAA gives the user privacy of health information and security over electronic recordings, such as telephones. Also, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act which provides additional privacy protections for students who are receiving special education services and related services. Some of IDEA's regulations include additional protection in regards to confidentiality with students with disabilities. IDEA in general offers many different protections for those with disabilities as well. For instance, IDEA ensures that students with disabilities are provided with free, appropriate public education that is designed for each student specifically. Another act that protects students with disabilities is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act of 1974, which is a federal law that protects the privacy of student education records. This law applies to all schools which receive funds from the U.S. Department of Education. Another law set in place to protect our students is the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act of 1998, which also has an impact on student privacy. Teachers nowadays are increasing their use of internet as an instruction method to enhance student learning. The main goal of the Act is to protect the privacy of children using the internet by having the parents' involvement in reviewing and deleting their child's personal information, as well as to inform the users how the information will be used and how or if their personal information is disclosed. Lastly, another law that protects those with disabilities is the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. This law entails that those with disabilities are not discriminated against. In particular, the workplace in schools for those with disabilities is shaped by this act. ADA prohibits the discussion or questioning pertaining to one's disability and requires accommodations for those students. Strategies in this case are ways to encourage students to use their AAC devices. Some different prompting strategies that can be used are verbal, visual, and multisensory. Verbal prompting includes spoken cues to prompt a response. Based off the data from Hallfield, Drager, Light, and Karen, prompting of an AAC device was done through a verbal prompt, and the students took to the prompting and showed high success with the intervention in the AAC program. Visual prompting is giving the cues such as pointing or gesturing to prompt a response. According to Babb, Gormley, McNaughton, and Light, prompting of an AAC device was done so through visual prompting through videos using a tablet-based app. All in all, the study found that the videos aided with learning and new skills. Multisensory prompting is using more than one modality to prompt a response. Prompting of this AAC device was done so through visual and verbal prompting. In a study done by Pattison and Robertson, there was a verbal prompting that was paired with AASL, and it was found that using the two together increased the mean length of utterances that occurred. AAC devices should always be prepared in case of an emergency. To ensure that students are confident in emergency situations, teachers should teach their students what to do in certain situations. For instance, teachers should give their students certain communication boards in case of an emergency. Also, teachers should allow the student to actually practice with the tools that are given. If students are just given the materials without proper guidance or instruction, they won't know what to do later on. In order for a student to know what to do in these situations, they must be taught about the different emergency departments, how to communicate with each one, and which departments carry out each task. Teachers should also teach their students about plans and how to be prepared for emergency situations. One example would be the school's policies and procedures. For instance, when the fire alarm goes off and all the students form a line and calmly exit the building where the teacher will then take attendance. You can even get local emergency departments to collaborate with the school so students can learn more emergency preparedness skills. Another option would be to create visual options in an emergency room. If an AAC device stops working, an independent adult might not have another way to communicate with a doctor. The doctor could then utilize a visual chart, and then the individual point to the things that apply. If an individual cannot point, then the doctor can point and have the patient nod their head.